What if I told you that one episode of a popular TV show was so extreme that the network buried it for over a decade? They pulled it from the air, acted like it never existed, erased it completely. One episode of Married with Children crossed a line that even a show famous for breaking rules couldn't cross. For years, it stayed hidden, never broadcast, never released. Only rumors existed. But here's the shocking part. The episode was already filmed, already finished. The cast had no idea it would be buried. And what made it so dangerous? It wasn't just the jokes. It was what the episode exposed about privacy, consent, and control. Stick with me, because I'm going to reveal why this episode terrified executives in 1989, why it matters even more today, and why, after 30 years of silence, it's finally coming back in 2025. Let's get into it. The show that broke all the rules. In the late 1980s, American TV was filled with perfect families. Shows like Full House and The Cosby Show painted pictures of loving families with minor problems solved in 22 minutes. Audiences were tired of it. Then came Married with Children in 1987 on the new Fox network. This show torched every rule. Al Bundy wasn't a sensitive dad. He was a bitter shoe salesman who hated his job and his marriage. Peg wasn't a loving housewife. She was lazy, never cooked, never cleaned, and lived for shopping. Their kids, Kelly and Bud, weren't adorable. They were selfish and proudly lazy. And that was exactly the point. From the first episode, the message was clear. This wasn't about perfect families. This was about dysfunction, disappointment, and brutal honesty that nobody had shown before. No heartfelt moments. No moral lessons. Just crude jokes, poverty jokes, and an unapologetic tone that dared audiences to laugh at things polite society ignored. People loved it. The show became a cultural phenomenon almost overnight. AL's rants about miserable customers hit home. Peg refusing to be an obedient housewife felt like rebellion. The show mocked everyone, and especially themselves. But that sharp edge that made it popular also made it controversial. Critics called it crude and irresponsible. Religious groups protested. Politicians called it cultural decline. Network censors were constantly watching. Scripts were flagged. Jokes were rewritten. Scenes were cut. Every week, Married with Children pushed the line. But there was a limit. And one episode crossed it. The episode they refused to air. The episode was called I'll See You in Court. It was fully produced during season 3 and scheduled to air in 1989. The cast and crew had no idea it would be different from any other episode. The plot sounded typical. Al and Peg decide to spice up their love life by checking into a seedy motel. What they don't know is the motel secretly records guests through hidden cameras. Later, they discover the video of their night together has been viewed and possibly distributed without their consent. In true Bundy fashion, they decide to sue the motel. But instead of justice, they find more humiliation when they learn their neighbors the Rhodes were recorded too. The episode becomes a courtroom drama with graphic testimonies and awkward jokes that even devoted fans would wince at. But this wasn't just another crude episode. The subject matter was loaded with legal and moral issues. Being secretly videotaped during intimacy wasn't just shocking. It touched on consent, voyeurism, and public exposure. Topics rarely discussed in sitcoms. This was different, even for a show where nothing was off limits. Fox was only a few years old as a network. They had an edgy image, but desperately needed advertising dollars. And this episode was a landmine. Internal memos show advertisers were uncomfortable. They didn't want their products next to jokes about illegal private videos. The network couldn't afford the risk. So the episode disappeared. No announcement. No statement. It just vanished. It never aired in the U.S. For over a decade, it wasn't included in reruns, home video, or streaming. Only rumors circulated. Some fans thought it was never completed. Others believed it was destroyed. But the truth? The episode was complete. It was just buried. And while the jokes might feel tame today, in 1989, it wasn't just edgy. It was dangerous. Not because it was dirty, but because it dealt with real-world anxiety. Being filmed without consent. Exposure of your intimate life. losing control of your privacy. The culture war that killed it. By 1989, Married with Children had become a battleground. One viewer's angry letter ignited a campaign that helped doom this episode. Terry Rakolta was a Michigan housewife who saw an episode while her kids watched TV. She was horrified. She believed the show was corrupting young minds and undermining family values. She didn't just change the channel. She declared war. Rakolta wrote letters to Fox sponsors urging them to pull advertising. And it worked. Major corporations like Kellogg's and Coca-Cola dropped their ads. The story hit national headlines. Conservative commentators praised her efforts. What started as personal outrage became a cultural movement. Fox suddenly found itself in trouble. The network wanted to be bold and rebellious, but they also needed to prove to advertisers they were marketable. A major scandal could be bad business. Then came I'll See You in Court, an episode about a couple secretly recorded being intimate. This was exactly the kind of problem they didn't want. The irony? Married with Children had aired raunchy episodes before. Al made inappropriate jokes regularly. Peg talked openly about fantasies. Kelly was constantly objectified. But this specific moment in 1989, right after the public backlash, hit differently. The episode had already been shot. It was scheduled to air. But suddenly every risk was being re-examined. The question wasn't whether it was funny. It was, will this get us sued? Will sponsors pull out? The legal murkiness around the plot, non-consensual filming, sexual content, courtroom implications, made Fox nervous. Silently, they pulled the episode from the schedule. With advertisers threatening to walk and public outrage rising, Fox made a quiet decision. Bury the episode. What the cast really thought. Inside the studio, I'll See You in Court was just another episode. The cast rehearsed it. The crew filmed it. They rapped as usual. Nobody realized they had just created the most controversial and soon-to-be-buried episode of the series. Ed O'Neill, who played out Bundy later, said he couldn't understand why this episode got pulled. He'd delivered worse monologues before. He'd insulted customers. He'd made crude jokes constantly. Yet none of those moments caused the network to flinch. Katie Segal, who played Peg, found the script funny and sharp. The motel story felt perfectly consistent with the show's style. It wasn't glamorous or steamy. It was awkward, ridiculous, and humiliating. The core of the show. The writers were shocked it got cut. Co-creator Michael Moy said the episode passed through normal approvals without warnings. It was only the pressure from Terry Rakolta and nervous advertisers that made Fox reconsider. Some crew members joked the episode became the Bundy Bermuda Triangle. Filmed, finished, but disappeared without explanation. For years, fans and insiders wondered if it had been destroyed. Others thought it aired overseas. The truth was stranger. The episode was stored fully intact, but purposefully left out of reruns and home releases. Fox hoped people would forget it existed. But among those who worked on it, there was quiet belief the episode would resurface someday. One production assistant said, "We knew it would come back. It was too good not to. Too bold." They were right. The secret resurfacing. For over a decade, I'll See You in Court was an urban legend. A ghost episode. It wasn't in DVD box sets. It was left out of reruns. It wasn't listed in episode guides. If you weren't watching in the late 80s, you'd never know it existed. But in 2002, everything changed. FX, which had acquired syndication rights, made a quiet move. During a weekday afternoon, they aired a single episode that fans instantly recognized as different. It was I'll See You in Court. For the first time in U.S. broadcast history, the banned episode aired in full. Viewers were stunned. Early internet forums exploded. People were quoting lines, sharing reactions, asking, "Did anyone else just see that?" Yes, it was real. FX included it in their rerun rotation without edits. Nothing was censored. No lines removed. No scenes cut. The original episode in its raw form. Response was mixed. Fans were delighted. This was exactly the crude satire that made the show great. Others were uncomfortable. The themes of voyeurism, sexual privacy, and exploitation felt heavy even in the early 2000s. But everyone agreed on one thing. It mattered. It represented a time when television dared to go into uncomfortable zones. It highlighted how quickly dignity could be stripped away, how easily someone could become the butt of a joke against their will. FX never promoted it or explained it, but its airing signaled a shift in censorship attitudes. Cable had less restrictions than broadcast. Shows like The Sopranos and South Park were already pushing boundaries. Suddenly, I'll See You in Court wasn't out of line. It was catching up. But the episode didn't stay available. It aired a few times, then was pulled again due to programming changes. Not public outcry. Still, the brief airing was enough. Fans demanded it be included in official DVD collections. Petitions appeared online. Cast members were asked about it in interviews. The episode was no longer just a curiosity. It became a symbol of what networks were once afraid to show. Why it's coming back in 2025. So why now? Why after 3 decades is I'll See You in Court finally getting its moment? The answer is simple. The world has changed. And so has television. In the 80s and 90s, broadcast networks operated under tight control. FCC guidelines were strict. Advertisers held enormous power. Public backlash could derail entire series. Censorship was the default solution. But by May 2025, everything is different. Streaming platforms like Netflix, Prime Video, and Max run everything now. They show Euphoria, The Boys, and Black Mirror with graphic content unapologetically. Audiences are more sophisticated. They've shifted from wanting moral clarity to wanting moral complexity. What was once too much for TV is now standard on prestige dramas and satirical comedies. I'll See You in Court isn't just shocking anymore. Today, it's relevant. It shows a world where surveillance is everywhere, where revenge porn and digital exploitation dominate headlines, where privacy disappears quickly. Themes that made the episode untouchable in 1989 now resonate loudly. Sony Pictures saw this shift coming. They started preparing a reintroduction. They're not embarrassed anymore. They see it as a cultural artifact, a reminder of how censorship silences uncomfortable truths. The upcoming digital release will feature banned episodes from legendary shows. But the highlight is I'll See You in Court. It's been cleaned, upscaled to HD quality, and includes commentary from cast and producers. There's even a documentary explaining why it was pulled and what the cast thought about staying quiet. The timing is perfect. Audiences today are obsessed with lost media. YouTube channels and Reddit threads are dedicated to uncovered suppressed films and censored scenes. This hunger has never been stronger. For Sony, this isn't just nostalgia. It's a marketing opportunity. They're unearthing suppressed entertainment that suddenly feels important. And there's no concern about advertisers now. Streaming has no obligation to traditional sponsors. The episode can sell directly to consumers. What would have caused a ratings catastrophe in '89 now goes live with the push of a button. This time, the episode won't be buried. It will be front and center with its own spotlight. Does knowing this story change how you see Married with Children? I think it should. Because this episode wasn't just buried for being crude. It was buried for being honest about something society wasn't ready to face. Consent, privacy, control, shame. In 1989, those topics were too uncomfortable. Today, they're urgent conversations we're still having. I'll See You in Court was ahead of its time. And its return in 2025 isn't just about nostalgia. It's a reminder that censorship doesn't just hide offensive content. It hides uncomfortable truths. The episode will finally get its moment. Not because society became cruder, but because we finally caught up to what it was trying to say. Which banned episode do you want to see next? Let me know in the comments. If you want more stories about episodes that were buried or nearly erased, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.